What's going on, everybody? This is Jerome Moore, host and creator of Deep Dish Conversations. And firstly, I want to say thank you for all love and support, and thank you for exploring the perspectives of social change with me on this platform. I want to encourage you all to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and on your favorite podcast listen platform. And make sure you give us a 5-star rating if you're loving the Deep Dish Conversations. I appreciate all of the support again. I hope you all enjoy this episode. Robert, man, what's going on? Welcome to the platform.
Man, what's good? What's good?
Man, I'm trying to get iced up like you, man.
Oh, man.
How you do it? How do you do it, man?
Just living, man.
Just living.
Just living.
Man, I'm really excited to dive into a conversation with you, man. Just being a Nashville native, White Creek Cobra, it's Firebirds, but I guess Cobras all right. My family Cobras, so
okay.
Yeah, I'm family Cobras.
We eat birds, but you're right.
Yeah, Cobras, but yeah, I eat birds. That is true. That is true. That is. Hey, I don't really got no rebut to that,
all
man.
Good. One of my closest friends, Reno Thompson, man, is Pearl. So yeah, he good.
How's life been, man? 2022.
It's been good, man. It's been good. Just looking at the real estate market is still doing its thing. Nashville is still progressing on a lot of things that needs to happen. We're one of the most progressive cities in the South. A lot of people don't know that.
Right.
A lot of things don't get past it as it come through here. So
right.
I'm right in the forefront of it.
Man, let's talk about some of that, man. Being a Nashville native, tell us a little bit about how growing up in the 90s, 2000s, Nashville was like for you.
Okay. Well, shit, man. I was born in '88. I got two older siblings who was born in the 70s, and of course, they grew up through the 80s and the 90s, and I kind of lived through them a little bit to see some things. But the 90s in Nashville was different completely. We wasn't as fast-paced as we are now, that's for sure. A lot of buildings that you see now went around. I remember when we didn't even have the Batman building.
Right.
That's how far back. But I'm loving the growth from what it was then. I just wish that as a city we was a little bit more family-wise than we was back then. Like, we had a lot of events back then that I remember going to middle school games and it's packed out.
Right.
Nowadays, we don't even care too much about inner city schools. Everybody going to private schools. Like, all that thing has just been a big shift.
Right.
I wish we can change that some kind of way.
Well, let's dig right into it then, because let's talk about education in Nashville real quick. You got any kids?
I got a son.
You got a son. I got a son too.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Black son, right?
Yeah, he's black.
Right. So in Nashville, right?
Mm-hmm.
Public city schools, right? The schools that me and you went to,
Right.
right? They don't fare too well for our black kids.
Right.
Like, it's just, the stats show higher exposure suspension rate, literacy rate is lower, especially by the time they get to the third grade. If they ain't really figured it out, they get left behind.
That's true.
Especially with black and brown kids, and especially black and brown boys specifically.
Right.
Right. So if you got the money to send your kids to private school, knowing that Metro public schools is pretty much not meant for your child, especially having a black son to succeed, are you still sending your kid to public school, or are you gonna send them to a private school where you know is meant and set up and you paying for them to succeed?
Well, that's a good question, man. Like, as of now, my son is in a private Christian daycare, which could translate into a school system, K through 5, and I'm gonna keep him in there for the time being. It's actually outside of Davidson County at the moment, but that is something that me and the mother of my child have sit down and thought about how we're gonna progress with that, because I still want him to have that edge like we had. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I agree with you about how the school system in Metro is deplorable. So
right.
To the standards of the United States, really,
right.
And even our own standards, it's just not. When I first got to, I know I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself, but my first years in college was at a junior college in Arizona.
Okay.
And man, it was. You could tell I was behind big time just by going to high school here. Right. I'm like, wow. But I was easy to catch on real quick.
Right.
But I see the problems compared to people who might have went to private schools or magnet schools.
Right. And I think too, and I think parents are accountable, even if your kids go to public school too. Because I think is as parents, it's our responsibility. Even if we know they're not getting the information they should, they can get it at home, right?
Right.
So I don't want to let the parents off the hook, you know.
Right.
because I think a lot of parents can easily tend to point fingers at the school, but we all going through something. We all got to work a job or 2 or 3, but you got to find that balance and that sacrifice you got to make if you want your child to have the education you feel like they deserve. And it might have to come from both home and the school. If it just can't come from the school all the time how you want it to, especially if it's a public school system here in Nashville.
Correct.
I wouldn't send my son to school here. and that edge that you talk about, I had a great time in school. Right. And that probably is the problem. I had a great time in school. And maybe I wish, it would have been more structured but more strict in a lot of ways. Because, hindsight, you see, okay, what is necessary to kind of be successful in the real life. Going ahead was a direct funnel for me to go to MLK, right? Okay. But my mindset was like, I'm going to go to Pearl, 1, because I want to play basketball. But 2, you see them backpacks, you see them rolling backpacks that they got over there at MLK. I'm not I don't want that type of homework. I don't want that type of work, even though I know it would have been good for me, but back then as a child, with my brain being at the maturity level that it was then, I wasn't trying to, carry those around. I just wanted to, have a good time, have fun, partake in sports and, the things that a teenage boy would want to partake in, and doing homework and presentations ain't one of the things on your mind. But, I wish I would have had my mama or my daddy say, hey, nah, we're going to send you to MLK because X, Y, and Z, but it is what it is.
Well, to piggyback off that, bro, in our culture, we're not really pushing hard on academics. We're pushing on sports, and that's why. So that's why your parents, and they kind of break up to your parents about putting you to MLK like that, because our forefront is to get our child to the league at some kind of point.
Right.
So we think about what school can best fit that.
Right. When
our other counterparts and races wise, they think about the academics, like the Asians, they just they starched on it. The Indians, so that's that. But when going back on the edge part. And I gotta dive into this, man. So going back to, like you said, in the 90s, me being very light skinned.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? My son is light skinned, even though his mother's dark skinned, but he came out just like me.
Right.
I don't think he's gonna go through the same things I went through.
Right.
But it was rough. I was getting picked on all the time.
Right. Soft.
Man, soft. This and that. They call me white boy. I ain't even mixed. You know what I'm saying? But they'll do all that. Right. Real story, man. At Jared Baxter Middle School, I got suspended 6 times for fighting the same dude. Dude named Omar. Because he used to come to school, hit me in the back of the head. And then at the time, my dad never did sign the form that you can just get a paddling and go back to class. He forgot it or something, so he just kept suspending me. And to my point, my dad got like, hold on, what's going on? So my dad tried to have a meeting with their parent. Their parent never did show up. And that's what it was. But that's how bad. So going back to you saying, right, Metro they was not strict enough.
Well, now something like that is toxic, and and it was bullying then too. Yeah. Which a lot of things was, but it wasn't coined that way. Like we didn't look at it that way as bullying. I'll be honest with you, I don't think I really heard bullying come up.
I didn't hear bullying come up, but just being honest with you, man, our generation and the ones before us, we were a little bit more thicker skinned. This new generation, they're I'm not trying to make fun of them, but they're softer than us, man. And the first time,
I would say society.
Society is period. Yeah. But to be honest with you, the first time we heard, I know you can remember this, the first time we heard of a bully situation and somebody snapping is Columbine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the only time I ever heard somebody just go crazy.
Right.
But our generation, man, we had to fight.
Right.
I remember, man, if somebody picking on me in the neighborhood or something, if I try to run home, my parents, they finna whip me too for not going to fight.
Right.
Now things are just look different.
Burning on each other.
That was like breathing.
Now, it ain't that. You could be shaming somebody.
And you get canceled.
You can get canceled. you can get canceled, which I'm not an advocate for. I don't believe in cancel culture. I think it prevents people to grow, because we're gonna make mistakes and say things wrong. But also, for example, you take out culture from it, and you'll know this. We'll call somebody gay, or soft, doing sports or whatever. Not even one in me and you probably both experienced, didn't have any kind of proximity to gay people in general.
Right.
Probably didn't even really know of any openly. It was just a term that was used to call somebody weak. Are you sorry?
Right.
You ain't good or something
Right.
like that. We
Right.
never meant for it to offend a whole group of people
Right.
that identify with that. And we would have been counseled. At the particular,
If we go back to the 90s
right.
and 80s,
Everybody counseled.
Everybody counseled.
Everybody counseled. And I think a lot of times you have these advocates trying to educate folks on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of cultural incompetence. Because if you don't understand how African Americans grow up and kind of how we talk in our slang and how we're using things, yeah, we might be offending people, but you gotta take into effect like, okay, well, maybe they don't even understand and the proximity to the people they offended, how close are them too. Take all that into consideration, and then just don't counsel me, and just think I'm trying to bash you and a whole group of people. But like with that counsel culture, man, it kind of forfeits that opportunity for us to one, bravely make those mistakes of just not knowing, and then two, of like not even want to speak and say things that might be controversial, or things that like I just don't know, I just don't understand, man. And that's why I call this a brave space, not a safe space. You gotta be brave, and you gotta be brave to make mistakes, and maybe offend some people unintentionally, but like, ain't no counseling over here.
Right. No, I got you. I feel you.
Man, going back to sports, athlete yourself, that education in athletes, you mentioned that, a lot of us are focused, and I want to dig a little deeper on this. A lot of us are focused in the community, specifically the black community, on like getting that, 1 out of 1 million chance for that, that job of 7 that 1 million people are going for, whatever it may be, right?
Right.
Do you think, well, we know for sure, before I say this, we know for sure that sports has been the biggest generational wealth grower for black folks since the beginning, since we've been in the United States. It's been the biggest generational wealth grower. Why do you think that it's still kind of, we see there's other opportunities for us to get into outside of entertainment now? Why do you think that we're still pivoting more towards let's get them to the NFL, let's get them to the NBA, in that avenue, instead of, okay, well, there's doctors that still need to be had, lawyers, engineers, scientists, hell, golf, even other sports, right? That I think we could be great at if we had more opportunities to participate in them. And lacrosse, whatever it may be. But basketball and football are the primary two. Why do you think we keep pivoting towards that instead of other things that can also be associated with blackness?
I think it's just, man, it's the curriculum, how they got the school system set up. And I think for these generations, it's just not sitting well with us as a whole. Yeah, you might have 1 or 2 or 3 blacks that come out and be Rhodes Scholars and all that, but that's not the norm. We don't learn like that as a group of people. We hands-on. We have to see, it's visual. Sports is that. And we see that as a quick avenue. You just mentioned how that's one of our best generational growth aspect, but it only works when we are getting to the highest level and then marrying our own people. Because as soon as you start marrying outside, then the money go to other places.
You getting into something now.
Oh, yeah.
You getting into something now. Let's
there.
dig into it. Let's dig into it. I like this.
Most there.
Now, I have no problem with biracial couples.
Okay.
I would even say if you was a black man and a woman, especially during Jim Crow or before, you can be seen as brave or courageous. Because your life was on the line.
Okay.
We couldn't look at a white woman, right? Without damn near being lynched, right?
Right.
So I would say you damn near correct. I would say you're brave and courageous, right? I would say that. But I will also say this, and I want your take on this. In my public, honest opinion, if you say that you're a black man or woman, and you say that you care about your community and your culture, your first obligation should be to the black family. I think that's where it starts. I think that's the foundation.
And I'm going to piggyback on that. You can't preach black but sleep white.
And if you really feel your obligation to your culture and community is family, for that to be so, you have to marry or be with a black man and or black woman.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. And like I said, I'm not knocking anything with people who, choose to be in interracial relationships. Okay. But I only pushback that I do have is that I feel like it's not being based out of love. I feel like it's being based out of opportunity. Or being based out of heartache from a past experience.
Well, we know. I think we know for sure that there's been black men and women on a record, and I'm gonna just put like this is white supremacy. I'm gonna go and put it like this. This is white supremacy. White is better. Mm-hmm. White is right. If I get with this white woman, maybe I have better opportunities to get inside doors and things.
Right.
And so this is we have men and women on the record. Like, you go to YouTube, whatever you want to go to, saying that was their motive.
That's a cop-out. Because you got to think about it. We are, as blacks, we are at the bottom of the totem pole. Mm-hmm. So how are you going to make it, as a black man, how are you going to make yourself go up the hierarchy and you're dating the guy on top's prize? That's like a slap in his face in a sense. Because now you're going after his woman. Right. So I don't know. I think that's just sometimes guys make an excuse just to say they want to date one.
And I like I said, for people that say they're pro-black and they're really for the black culture and community, I really believe it starts in the family household. This is me.
It does.
And if you look at why we may be in the place that we in today, and black women are really still getting incentivized by this, is once they took the black man out the household, whether it may be through drugs, through crime laws by Bill Clinton. Mm-hmm. Once they took us out the household, that's when you start to see the decline of the black family. Not even more so drugs, but once we start disappearing as black men, you see the decline of our communities and our households.
Well, I even go deeper than that. The last part you just said is major. But I'm gonna wow you with something. If you're already up on game on it. So me having an older father, he'd be 72 this year. And I've always been around the old heads, you know what I'm saying? I've always been that young guy who's been around hearing their ear. And listen from them, they feel, and also I do too, after I really thought about it, they feel like so when birth control came out in the late 60s, okay, that opened up the door for not just blacks, but for all races of women, in a sense, to now feel more comfortable. What's the way I want to say this? So we know for eons, men of any race might step out on their spouse to do whatever they do, going back to whatever Babylon. Right. And women have done it too, but they had be a little bit more conscious because of what could happen, either get pregnant. Right. So and then if you go back to the 60s, one of the things that was going on in society, they wasn't really worried about diseases that much like this, sexual STDs. But they main fear was having a child out of wedlock or just having a child, period, while they married, whatever, boom, boom. So now you're eliminating that fear. A lot of myself and the elders think that might have did something on the psyche of women who want to go out and do what men been doing. They feel liberated on that. And then you come in the mid-70s, early 70s, mid-70s with the women's rights movement. I'm not saying they're not supposed to have, because women's supposed to have rights. They're equal in a sense. So if you got, but that was a fight that I say the powers that be had got in contact with black women who was the backbone of the civil rights movement and got them to get behind their movement. But really that was a movement for a white woman who was trying to get equal to the white man but needed help. Right. And they kind of bamboozled black women to help them on that, like they was getting hurt when we don't have no power either. We in the same boat as they are. Right. And they flip things. Right. And then the third part would be in what you said, like with welfare, well, okay, if you're gonna accept this money, now that man can't be in your house. Right. It still happens to this day. To this day. That it's basically, it literally is incentivizing black women not to have a black man in the household. Right. That ain't no other way to cut it, shape it. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. And I would love for our black women, because we can't speak from a woman's point of perspective. Correct. I would love for them to chime in on this when they're watching this and listening to it, especially if you're in
the bricks, public housing, whatever you want to call it. And how do you feel about that? Being incentivized and taking the money and keeping yourself there, and the only kind of threshold is like you can't have a man here, and of course your income gotta be whatever, but you definitely can't have a man in here,
right?
Which is wild, and it's generations of it.
Right. It's
Brag about it.
We got 50 years of it right now.
Right, bragging about it. I remember my daddy would tell me, it was embarrassing to have a book of stamps and going down to the store. But now you get a little fancy debit card, the little American flag on there. Mm-hmm. Hell, people even brag. I'm selling them. Who wants some?
Oh, yeah.
And it just, I don't, do we come out of that? How do we come out of that psyche?
I feel like we want to get pulled out of it. I think that as long as we're at the bottom, we won't be able to change things. And I like to tie things back to Revelations on like how things are going to get flipped over. We just got to wait. Right. I think it's out of our power because we got all the educated blacks to do something. We got money as blacks, but we don't own nothing.
Right.
You got to think about it. We're the only race that don't have a military. We don't erase. We even consider the United States blacks. We're the only race that don't even have a home place to call upon if we get done wrong.
Right.
For example, one reason why I think why the Asians got to build so quick because if you do an Asian wrong in the United States, China and Japan gonna get on your butt.
Right.
We don't have that.
No.
So it's like if something happened to us, you better hope Dodge City help you. But other than that, you gotta Schitt's Creek.
Man, you spoke about being light skinned, and colorism is real.
Right.
Man, being older now, being more seasoned just in life and being able to look at things differently. Mm-hmm. Man, have you noticed you maybe had some advantages growing up or disadvantages compared to your darker counterparts?
That's a good question, bro. So I think that people have to look at it on this spectrum. That work on the having a one-up will come towards more on the light-skinned women.
Okay.
On the light-skinned men, you still the men at the end of the day. So it's like, in my opinion, what I went through in my life trials, the 90s was rough for me because it was like and I joke about this, but it was the time of the dark skins. You had Tyrese, you had Tupac.
Man, it's still time. I'm just
right.
The time ain't never stopped.
Right. Nah. So, but you had a lot of the dark skinned actors and the rappers doing their thing. Mm-hmm. And if I listened to my sister and my brother who grew up in the 80s too, they said that was the light skin time was the 80s. And when you had Prince, right. Elder Bar and all that, and it kind of shifted in the 90s. So it sounds funny saying this, but it kind of affected even at the lower level. So my childhood, man, like, to be honest with you, I've always been attracted to dark-skinned women. Like, I love black women, period, but dark-skinned women has always been like my kryptonite.
Right.
But they wouldn't even mess with me back then.
Wow.
Even they wanted Tupac. So I always tell people, I joke all the time, I say, things didn't change for me until high school and when Pretty Ricky came out.
Ah.
That's when or B2K and all that. So that was like a B5, whatever. And that's when things started to change.
Right.
And then, of course, I was playing football. True story, man. Like my last name is Savage, of course. So I went to a neighborhood guy that everybody probably knew of. I'm gonna say his name. And I went with my homies, and I got my last name tatted on my back.
Okay, let me see. Does it start with a W?
You know it. Yeah. Went to him, and the funny thing about it, man, went with him with some friends, man. We didn't even pay him, man. We just had some, but we kind of strong-armed him. Like, if you mess it up, we ain't giving you nothing. We give you some pills, whatever.
Right.
So, man, we scared him so much, man. He made sure my Savage tat was perfect.
Right.
And he did. So, long story short, man, back in Nashville, we used to have a lot of teen clubs.
Right.
Man, look, we go to a teen club. I'll be in there 10 minutes. My shirt is off. Y'all got to see this tattoo. Right. I'm at that. I ain't even sweating yet. So, to piggyback off you saying about the light skin thing, like, so things changed for me towards end of high school to when I got grown. It was just the culture shock I got in Arizona woke me up too, because things not like that on the West Coast. Okay. Like you the cream of the crop. Okay. No matter if you male or female. Right. But when I came back, when I transferred to TSU to play, and I started getting cool with my friends from Memphis and some parts of Mississippi or Ohio, they said, "Shit, if you grew up in my city, you'd be the king back then too." Right. So I think Nashville kind of has a weird thing on that, because like I do have Memphis friends and Mississippi friends say, bro, you been light skinned, you just one period back then. I said, well, you gotta look at the demographic in Mississippi. They're not really doing interracial like that much or that
Right.
boom. But I had it rough then, but then it changed for me towards the end of high school.
Okay.
But women, light skinned women, I think that they get praised a little bit quicker than dark skinned women or brown skinned women. Because it's kind of the paper bag test,
Yeah,
or getting close to light is right.
Right.
Type of thing.
Right. A lot of women have video vixens and things like that have came out about that over the years. But it seems like the society in general is trying to be more intentional, especially I would say with George Floyd passing, R.I.P. George Floyd. Our culture, our world is trying to be more intentional about being very inclusive of blackness, all shades, colors, just trying to be super inclusive. And it's like we know we're the trendsetters of the world, but it's like it makes me question how genuine it really is, because it's like we always been here, and then now y'all finally see, and then y'all want to include us. Like, how genuine is that? Like, how long is that gonna last? When y'all want to just say, okay, we did our part on history, now we're gonna go back to protecting what's ours and not including y'all on things. So I always just question that, especially when anything is trendy. Colin Kaepernick is a perfect example. The NFL made it trendy for people to kneel and made it safe. I would say they didn't make it brave. When Colin Kaepernick did it was brave. Then it became commercialized, and they made it safe, and it seemed like they always do that.
Well, it seemed like we might be going through a term we call white guilt. So that's why you might see a lot of doors opening up for some right now. Doors are opening up for us. We just got to make sure we capitalize.
Man, I think it's a black renaissance that's happening here in Nashville now.
Yes.
Before I touch on that, though, I want to go back a little bit. Well, not even back a little bit. Just talking about what's happening here in the community in Nashville, housing, right?
Right.
It's not enough affordable housing. I think we need something like 31,000 units of affordable housing, just to put like a Band-Aid over like the housing crisis. You're in real estate. What's your thoughts? What's your perspective on what's going on in housing? How can more people be able to afford housing? How can we get more black ownership, home ownership, instead of having to, move on the outskirts of Nashville or in the city of Nashville?
Well, I think as a whole, we got to get our priorities together.
Okay.
So what I mean by that, yes, people are getting pushed out. That's not a doubt. I mean, there's a lot of money coming in Nashville now with Amazon, Oracle, and these people are working and they're making top dollar, and they trying to find somewhere to live, preferably closer in town, because that's how they lived when they was in Seattle and San Francisco. But the reason I said we got to get our house in order, because, for example, when the tornado hit, not this last one, but the one I think 2 years ago.
2020.
2020, yes.
In March, yep.
I was out in the community with some other big juggernauts in the city. My boy Robert Sherrill, my boy Derek Salter, he was out there. And we were just going around and just asking people and just having a conversation about their homes and like how much how much can we buy from them or just whatever. And the amount of people who didn't even own their homes. Now the home just got demolished. Now they've been in that house or that home for 5 generations, still paying a mortgage on it. But I see a Mercedes and a Cadillac in your driveway.
I'm gonna stop you right there before you get into it. People will say that you all was predatory home buyers. You're trying to benefit off of the demolishment and suffering of people who have been in those homes. Now they're demolished and maybe they can't pay for their repairs all the way. Maybe they didn't have things in order where they didn't really own it or whatever. What's your thoughts on that? Because that was real big when the tornado came, because they were developers calling, putting stuff on the mailbox, specifically in North Nashville, trying to buy up those properties, which, you know, we see is happening, tall and skinny, duplexes.
Well,
what would you say to that now? Because people gonna see, oh, Robert was one. Would you?
no, I wasn't, you know, coming with the duffel bag waiting to buy you. I was actually out there, and everybody was with me. Like I said, Robert Sherrill,
Right.
and there, so we was actually just trying to help and get the trees, debris off your
Okay.
property, or just
Okay.
seeing where your head at. So we wasn't really going in to ask them like to buy your stuff. We just seeing where their head at. Like, what's our next move? And they would
Okay.
tell us that.
Oh, okay.
The people who was
Okay.
actually coming in town was like outside investors who had that briefcase ready.
Right.
But you know, I had heard stories even on their side how they couldn't even give the people the money because they ain't own it.
Right.
So that's why I bring that up. Now,
Okay.
we wasn't, but we
Right.
we actually was, you know, putting our heart in and helping. But
Right.
when you hear these stories, I'm like, and then again, me being in real estate, I still had to sit back and look like, wow. Even if say I did have a bag
Right.
to give them, I'm not even able to give it to you.
Right.
I gotta get to who your landlord.
Right.
And he might live in Brentwood somewhere.
Right.
But you live here.
Right.
So I'm like, and then I look at the circumstance. If this house, you've been in this house since 1976. So when you bought the house, it probably was 12,000. I say 20 maybe.
Right.
You shouldn't still be paying a mortgage on it.
Right.
You need to refinance it too many times or whatever. But I had brought up about the vehicles because I've seen this too many times that they get looked over. Then I look in your driveway, you got fancy cars, new. So
Right.
that means your product is going wrong. And then if you step outside, you probably got some Jordans on, whatever, boom, boom. So
Right.
as a whole, us people got to get our money together and start buying things that's going to grow us.
How do we do that? Where do we start? Because we an oppressed people,
Right.
right? And I never try to be. I'm never hard on black folks. I never try to be hard on black folks in general, just because I just know the barriers in general, systemically, especially that we have to face. But you hear this recurring theme a lot, like, man, look, we need to do this. This is, you know, and me and you may do it. Me and you may practice it, and then we good, you know,
Right.
or we have the wherewithal to know how to make those, that had that discipline and make those corrections.
Right.
But how do we get us as a group? Because you mentioned it, we can do great as individuals. We can be the president. We can be lawyers. We can be athletes. We can be millionaires, billionaires. But how do we get the group, the majority of us anyway, on the same page to be able to build and practice that community investment, practice having a community agenda?
It starts at home, bro. So we the new generation. We in our
Right.
30s, early 30s.
Right.
So we got to teach our kids the financial literacy now.
Right.
That's dire. Like, we don't have to just wait on the school system to have to teach our kids about that. If we know it, it's instilled to them early.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Start them with a bank account, savings account, and tell them
Right.
how, you know, if you got them doing some kind of chores around the house, let them know how this can appreciate going towards some kind of stocks and bonds. Like, for example, my mom's from Memphis. So that's like half my family's down there too. But one thing that my first cousin, my two first cousins, JC and Nicole, their father was, man, he was heavy, man. Like, he was an ex-military for FedEx. He was there for 25 years. I'm sorry, I said ex-military. He was in the Navy for 25 years. And he went to FedEx for 20 years.
Okay.
But he was high-ranking, and he just was all about stocks and bonds in the 80s. And all the way through the 90s, and they always been on a different echelon when it comes in our family. I always looked up to that.
Right.
And had my cousin JC now is an accountant, killing it, and he also still trying to run to get to the Olympics, and we nothing but a year apart.
Wow.
But their father instilled that in them, and like, they very, very successful still to this day. And a lot of that stuff rubbed off on me and my little brother. My little brother's a travel nurse, and he's doing this thing in Baltimore.
Right.
So it's all about having influence. Now, my dad, you know, he's a hard worker. He was in the Navy also as well, not as long. And then he worked at the post office as a truck driver from city to city, or dock to dock here in the city here too, for 40 years.
Right.
So, but that wasn't his expertise on managing money.
Right.
And then he went to two different marriages for my older siblings, and to my mom, which he's still married to this day. So it's been a struggle.
Right.
He's retired now, so he's getting out of it.
Right.
But that alone right there, not having that financial literacy early age, I seen the two differences.
Right.
I seen how, you know, my uncle flourished and my dad was like just
Right.
making ends meet.
Right.
So yeah,
And I think a lot of us are like victims to that, right? Because most of us are not. Most of us are not really parents or grandparents are not removed from Jim Crow,
right.
right? Like especially we in the South, and so many of us come from families that wasn't affluent, or maybe wasn't even affluent financially because of the systemic barriers that was in place, like lawful systemic barriers that was in place, and they was focusing on surviving.
Right.
And then they can only teach you what they know from their perspective and from their lived experience. And so I think you're really right about, okay, we in the generation now, I think that we should be coming out of that, especially with the internet and all this stuff. You can make $1 million on your laptop. You know what I'm saying? It's so much, and it's just throwing at you. And hopefully is more of us. It's always gonna be a group that's always, it's always gonna be that group always, but hopefully it's becoming more of us as Black folks, especially that's tapped into that financial literacy and then passing it on to our kids or to our partners, to our peers, to our colleagues, so we can all move forward. Because I really believe, like, if you moving forward and I'm moving forward, it helps the group, especially if we're reaching back and helping each other.
Correct.
Which I think, which I see a lot that you do from the community. You ain't never just doing something by yourself, man.
Right.
Talk about that a little bit. How you always find a way to put yourself around people, or connect with people that is trying to build and build power in community.
Okay, well, first and foremost, man, I'm spiritual, but I'm faith-based, so I'm a Christian.
Okay.
And I believe I got the gift of gab on me.
Okay.
I go anywhere, talk to anybody. I don't get discouraged from nothing because I done seen too much.
Right.
So me being in Nashville, man, I've aligned myself with some good brothers and sisters who are about our empowerment to get us on our feet. So when you see me on social media with Otis Carter, which you've interviewed before,
right.
Donovan Hilton, who's part of Team USA Nashville boxing that I'm with, Ferrari, Coach Kevin Walker, and a couple of others. We're trying to change the narrative. One of my best friends, Tyler Luss, man, he's a Murfreesboro. He's a Murfreesboro guy, but I even got him instilled on some things that I do in the community just to show this Black face, like this Black men.
Right.
One thing I think that needs to be shown in the Black world is seeing Black men being held accountable on the top. Right now, our Black women are the queens right now.
They killing it.
They killing it. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta mesh them where they at.
Right.
And I feel like the core guys that I'm around, man, we're doing that, but we can still expand.
Right.
I want Nashville to get on the same accord as like an Atlanta when it comes to like working together. And of course they had their problems too.
Right.
Don't get it wrong. But we got too many educated Blacks here to not be winning.
Man, we got too many HBCUs here to not be winning.
We got 4 in a 2-mile radius.
Right. Easy.
ABC,
TSU, Fitzmaghari.
Right there. And then you go right down the street, you got Lane.
Right.
So it's like we got them right here. So there's no reason for us not to be capitalizing off of this.
Have you faced pushback from the work and the things that you've done, your success here in Nashville?
The pushback that I get is just people from here who are just shocked that I'm even doing it. They might have a perception of me when I was growing up, like, Sal, I always looked at him like he just, he loved the girls, you know what I'm saying, boom,
right.
boom, or whatnot. So they're seeing me in this light, and it's just shocking to them, So the pushback I'm getting is, what is he really about? Is he really serious?
Right.
And I mean this. Like, this is a calling that I have, and what I'll say to the naysayers or just the people who have pushback, just continue watching, and you'll see everybody can evolve. Like, I wasn't a bad person as I was younger, but
we all did our dirt.
Right, we all did our dirt. But,
right.
You know what I'm saying? But I've been to different cities, seeing how things are.
Right.
And the love I get from other cities, it's crazy when I come back to my own city. And I like what me and Boosie are cordial on some different things. And I like one statement that he said on another interview platform. He said, "Your hometown sometimes be hypnotized with hatred."
Yeah. Oh, for
real.
sure. Yeah. No. Especially it's for Black men.
Especially
we have this self-hate, that I've learned to check myself on. And I had a cousin of mine like check me on it like years ago, and then I started just checking myself because I might see you, right? And your face might even be familiar to me, and I might and because of my self-hate, I might say, well, Robert, he might be on some other shit because I'm on some other shit, or I could be on some other shit. Therefore, like I might see you, I might not even look at you. I might use the stale face. I might even clutch my pistol because I'm ready to do something just to prove a point because of the self-hate that I had. Right. And I really truly believe and feel that and that we have to change that, especially as black men. I should be able to see you, don't even know you, and just say, man, what's up, man? Hey, man, I love you because you're black. And you're a man, and just whatever you're doing, just keep doing as long as it's positive. And it shouldn't be no animosity. It shouldn't be like what you looking at me. I should be able to give you a head nod without you. You know what I'm saying? Me mugging me down. How do you respond to that? Because I know you get it. If I get it, you get it.
Well, I don't.
How do you navigate that? I would say not even respond. How do you navigate that?
Man, be honest with you, man. I learned this from my boy Otis. Just look the man in his eye and shake his hand. Regardless if I got a problem, just that eye-to-eye contact would change a lot of things. It'll humble a lot of people too.
That sound like Otis too.
Yeah, that's my dog, man. That's my big bro. But that right there, man, you will see a man's true attention sometimes when you just look him in the eye. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes I ain't like even my own size now. You know what I mean? I don't try to intimidate nobody, but if it's gonna be a problem, it's gonna show when I look in your eye.
Right.
And I don't really have any enemies like that. So a lot of stuff that I'm hearing, bro, is just why him? Why he want to do that for?
Right.
So.
And this be my thing, man. If you really try to do positive and build power and care, and on the flip side of that, if you've been in real beef, right, and if you've been in real beef and you know psychologically where your mind got to go to, like who wants to live like that? Right. I don't. Right. And therefore, I try to be the happiest person I can be. I try to exude and radiate positivity. Right. Everywhere I go. Right. Don't know you. Don't even know what but you're going to get some positive interaction from me. I'm going to make sure my spirit is projecting that. So whatever you might be on some other stuff, like you might even, that my energy might rub off and you be like, man, my day didn't change, you know?
I'm going to be honest with you, man. It go back to how we was in our 20s and how we in our 30s. Sometimes music does that. Our music that we listen to sometimes telling us to be tough and hard all day, and we kind of correlate into real life for no reason. Like I can go back to my 20s, man. Even still now, I can go to a gas station and dude just mugging. He don't even know me. Right. But then I open the door for him to get in there, his whole mood changed.
Right. Them little small acts of just kindness.
Little things, man. Change the whole thing. Like just, I want no problem.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially when you have kids, man, it changes you in that way. Because we ain't promised today. I ain't promised to make it home tonight. It could be an accident, a drunk driver could hit me, who knows? All right, so we really got to be more intentional about enjoying our life, but also enjoying the people that's around us, man, and making sure that we positive in any way possible that we can be, so that, if you do go, you ain't going mad and bitter. You going like, hey, I was having a good day, and I made somebody else day good too. Correct. And I really see you doing that, and that's why, man, I won when O told me you got to talk to Robert. I was like, man, and I feel like, really, I'm gonna be honest with you, man, I feel like we didn't met before. Like I really feel like we didn't cross paths somewhere, man.
I mean, for you to go to Pearl, I had to see you some kind of way. I don't know.
Hey, man, I probably crossed you up on the court or something, man.
Might didn't happen. You know what I mean?
I think that's what it came from, man.
Was Pearl good in basketball? Man?
Hey, man, I
think I only had Satch.
Hey, if Satch is a
Brian Gupton.
They know, they a year above
my
me.
Class,
they a year above me, but man, he could have been in Hartman or something. I don't know, man. He could have been. His ankle still down, but I didn't left on the court. But
I understand that.
But now, man, so what else you got coming up, man? What else is new? Got a podcast coming?
Yes, I do.
What else, man? Just tell the folks what you got working on, man.
Man, appreciate that, man. So you got a podcast coming in, man. Got my crew with me here off camera. I want to, utilize the platform that I have with the celebrities and have them come in and sit down and pick their brain. And it also kind of gives some Nashville history while we're doing this stuff too. I still got some things going in works with some community engagement things too as well. That 2022 is really going to be liking. But I'm going full force on this podcast just because the last 3 years, man, I really galvanized a lot of friends. I ain't gonna say in the industry, but just celebrities, period, and gain their trust. But I really never had no platform to sit there and talk to them on.
Right.
Like, yeah, they'll do favors for me, but I want to sit down and talk to you, bro. Like, you know,
Right.
and then kind of correlate their experience with Nashville and go from there.
We need it too, man.
Yeah, we need it, man, because I feel like that's one thing. Nashville's story is not being told, man. Especially, you know, me and you talked off air about even the rap thing, like Pistol, like that's monumental.
Man, I want to get Pistol on here, man.
Oh, well,
Pistol, come on up here, man.
Yeah, we gotta get that. We gotta get that, man. I mean, but it's to be honest with you, man, it's some stories, man, that I know,
Right.
that it kind of starting to seep out a little bit now from other podcasts, but if it wasn't for Nashville, man, the rap game that you see now wouldn't even be what it is, and I mean that. It's gonna sound far fetched, but But you know, I know we all know the things about Cash Money, but I know the guy personally who really helped him out the most to be seen.
Right.
So it's like it's just one side, you know what I mean, and then other things when it comes to sports, like I feel like we don't get our recognition here in Nashville about basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that, I know I love Memphis, have my family there, but we hooping up here too. So I want to speak on some things like that too.
Right.
Funny thing, man, I got into it with somebody on Facebook not so long ago it was a guy from Memphis. He was just talking about sports, and I'm like, bro, look, yes, Memphis got Penny, and he is the best player to come out of Tennessee. I'm not gonna ever say that. But even on that team, it was two Nashville guys that was balling, Mingo Johnson and David Vaughn.
Mm-hmm.
But they act, oh, well, yeah, they did. Yeah. So basically, stop cutting us out.
Right.
Because I feel like, to me, the 90s, we owned it. We had too many NBA guys. Brian Mercer, Brian Slay, Charles Hathaway, David Vaughn. I mean, to bring up the David Vaughn thing, man, when I was in high school, Coach Core, my head coach at the time, he had told us a story about when David Vaughn got drafted first round.
Uh-huh.
And I want to say this 94 or 95. He came back to White Creek Homecoming in a Range Rover. When the Range Rover first started coming out with people behind him, he pulled down he rolled down his passenger window, and it was Tony Braxton in the car.
For real?
White Creek Homecoming, yeah.
Wow.
So little stuff like that, little things like that I like to bring up and show.
Man, look, it's coming, man. A black renaissance is happening, and platforms like the one you build and this one that's talking directly to Nashvillians and to Nashville. It's just gonna become more and more, man. Mm-hmm. And then people like ourselves that are natives, that are unicorns here, we the only ones that can tell these stories.
We the only ones.
And that's connected to the people that's been here or that was here, to be able to refresh the memories of everybody else that may not be from here.
Right.
And I think it's a beautiful thing. And for a long time, I think we still searching for it. That kind of that equilibrium between preserving the old with the growing new of Nashville. Right. And I think it's happening, and the way it's going to continue to happen if people like you, me, and others create these platforms and talk to each other about Nashville specifically. Mm-hmm. And so people don't forget, but also saying, hey, there's opportunity here. We ain't South Dakota, North Dakota. It ain't like, we popping. The Athens of the South. We got 4 HBCUs. We got the Harvard of the South. Mm-hmm. Like we you know what I'm saying? We might be like the white Atlanta, but the black renaissance is happening. The black culture is growing too.
And I'll piggyback off that, bro. Be honest with you, we've been the black renaissance. Be honest with you, it's just that it's been hidden. You being from here, you should know this too. We all yes, we call it the white Atlanta in a sense, and I get that. Right. But, unless you come here, you don't understand that Nashville really a black city. Right. You got to be here to know, to understand.
Everything, I would say everything that makes Nashville great or has derived from Nashville greatness has been black.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like how far you want to go to Jubilee singers? We're talking about music.
Jubilee. Be honest with you, man, the cell phone you got, that was a black man who from South Nashville who went to Cameron, created. They went to CSU too. Like that, we have some powerhouses come out of the city, man.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's been suppressed for some reason. Like they don't want to get it out, and I don't know why it's been that way. Like I feel like when they it's like they pick the powers that be pick a city they want to forefront. Like they forefront Atlanta a lot, they forefront Birmingham. But it's crazy when John Lewis when he passed. That's when we first found out that he even went to the FIS.
For a lot of people.
For a lot of people.
Yeah.
He got to start it, and he went to AB, and he went to American Baptist College too.
I'm like, how you gonna be? He gonna go to FIS and be an AB. He gonna go to FIS, be a freedom rider,
Right?
And then go to ABC. And then how you just now found about him? He just now getting the street name?
Just now. And I ain't just that, I ain't just getting bad on the Nashville side, just on our culture. I mean, not our culture, but our United States period. They always pinpoint what Mobile, Birmingham, Atlanta. They just lift us out.
Yeah, why? That's crazy.
A lot of things didn't work unless it come to us.
Right.
For example, a couple of years ago, I was involved with Woolworth right here down the street. And that's where they had the sit-ins at. Mm-hmm. Senator Lewis there. My pastor, he just passed not too long ago, but his wife, Sister Frankie Henry, she was in there at the sit-ins. So I got involved with that and try to bring some light back into that, and also give us another venue.
Right.
And it went well. The pandemic kind of killed that, but that was a great time and a great experience, man. We actually got Oprah to come back down here. She showed her face in there. That was amazing.
Man.
Ava was in there. Then I teamed up with Bobby Jones, the gospel singer. A lot of people know he's even from Tennessee.
Yeah. My grandmama sung with Bobby Jones. That's how you know it's real on here, Nashville side.
Oh yeah, man, big time, man.
Temple Church, you know.
Exactly, exactly, man.
Yeah.
I owe a lot to him, man. He, a lot of times when you see me on those award shows, I'm there with him and Kirk Franklin or whatever. And he had me there, man, because I gave him another platform after he left BET. So I opened up Woolworth for him so he can still do the gospel show there, even though he still does some of Mount Zion.
Right.
But that gave him another platform and also help out Woolworth. And he was grateful for that. And I've been traveling those different scenes with him.
Man, hey, I'm looking forward to the podcast, man.
Man, it's gonna be real, man.
I'm really looking forward to watching, and I want people to support, follow, subscribe, all of that, man. Especially if you're a Nashville native and new to Nashville in general, man. Like we gotta reach back and support each other and put each other on game, man.
What's that? I got a great crew around me, man. My boy Mahi, man, he's a guru when it comes to the to the tech savvy, man. Beautiful couple right here, man. I've met them in a short period of time. Black billionaire black. Man, they killing the game with the rental car, with the Turo and the Airbnbs. But we all putting our head together to get this podcast going, man, and I'm grateful for it.
Hey, what they say, teamwork made the dream work.
Teamwork made the dream work, bro.
Man, Robert, man, I appreciate your time, man. Appreciate it, man. Hey. Keep doing your thing, even though you're light skinned. But, man, I really appreciate it though, man. We gotta have you back.
Man, have me back, man. We gotta dive deep, man. We started earlier, but we're gonna save it for another day.
That's a bet, man. Appreciate you.
What's that?